So I need to learn frameworks as well as J2W also.
Okay.
So actually, I'm applying for the jobs here. So that's why I
Okay.
want to learn the uh, Java frameworks and all.
Okay. Fine. So you're not working anywhere, right? So just you're.
Like 1 year I worked on the Hadoop.
Uh-huh.
Hadoop, like I learned the Spark and Scala. So I worked on Hive and HBase.
Okay.
And later I worked on testing. Right now I want to apply for Java.
Okay. Okay. Got you. So before starting the demo, right? So let me introduce myself as well. Having 11 years of experience in Java and JEE,
Okay.
and presently I'm working for Wells Fargo in India, Hyderabad.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is about my small introduction. So you know already core Java and advanced Java, right? So advanced
Yes.
Java means you know already JDBC,
Yes.
servlets, and JSP. Up to this, you know.
Yes.
So you don't know Spring Framework, Hibernate, and web services, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with the Spring Framework introduction. Okay. So we'll
Okay.
go with the demo on the topic. So how Spring Framework came into the market and what are the modules in the Spring Framework we have. We'll discuss each and every one in detail. Okay. Okay. So
Maybe you can
before
include servlets and JSP also if possible.
servlets and JSP.
Yes.
Okay.
I learned like long back in Hyderabad, but maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
better to learn the servlets and JSP.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that should be fine. So first we'll go with the demo. So if you're
Oh,
interested, so we can continue from there. Okay.
okay.
See. Okay. So before going into the Spring introduction, right? So what are the books we need to read for Spring framework? Okay. So this is very very important. So what are the books we need to buy and read? The first one is the Pro Spring. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Second book is Spring Recipes. Spring
Okay.
Recipes. So these are the two books you have to read. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So coming to the introduction, right? So already we have a servlet programming and a JSP programming. So why they introduced this Spring framework? Okay. So that I'm
Yes.
going to explain. Okay. So the first point in the Spring Framework introduction here is, so Spring Framework is a lightweight and open source framework. So what it means? Open
Lightweight.
source means, yeah, open source means, so we can use Spring Framework without paying amount to the okay organization or okay community. Okay, it is a
Yes.
open source
Non-commercial.
framework. Correct, not commercial. Yes, open source from framework, and it is a lightweight framework. So lightweight means not in terms of number of classes and number of interfaces present in that framework. So lightweight means there is a special feature available in the Spring framework that I will explain actually later. So what is a lightweight means? So
Yeah.
so because internally it uses the Pojo model. So what is Pojo model and all? I will explain in detail later. But remember that point. So Spring is a open source and a lightweight framework. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So coming to the second point, right? Okay. Who created this Spring framework initially? Okay. So there was a developer called Rod Johnson. Rod Johnson. So he developed Spring framework in 2003. In 2003. Okay. So this is about the second point you have to remember. So coming to the third point. So it's very important to listen carefully. So Spring Framework is a complete under modular framework. Complete under modular framework. So what it means? I'll give an example so that you can clearly understand what it means. What is a complete and what is a modular framework? Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
For example, so we have a Hibernate. So generally Hibernate is used for persistence purpose.
Okay.
Persistence purpose, storage, retrieval, okay, purpose. So my question here is, using Hibernate alone, can we build the complete application? Can we build the complete application? So it's not possible. For example, I want to build the pages, UI pages, user interface pages. So is it possible using Hibernate? No, not possible. So using Hibernate, we can perform only CRUD operations, persistence operations like
Okay.
save, update, delete, and retrieve. I,
Okay.
I want to create some user interface pages using the Hibernate. It is not possible. So
Okay.
what I'm trying to say here is finally using Hibernate alone, we cannot create a complete application. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
so it has to integrate with the some other frameworks or technology to build the complete application. For example, servlets, JSP, or Spring Web,
Yeah.
or Struts. Okay, so Hibernate using Hibernate alone, we cannot complete the build application. So in order to build the complete application using Hibernate, it has to integrate with the some other technologies like servlets, JSP, Spring Web, and Struts.
Yeah.
Okay, similarly. So we have a Struts application, Struts technology we have, Struts framework is there, or
Okay.
server JSP we have.
Mhm.
This is for developing, yes, developing web applications. Correct.
Yeah.
So using Struts, can we build the complete application? No, here also answer is no because, for example, I want perform CRUD operations, database operations. So
Yes.
using Struts, it is not possible. Again, in this case as well, so the Struts has to integrate with these other technologies like Hibernate, okay, otherwise JDBC or GPA, etc. Okay, so using Struts framework or Struts alone, using Struts alone, we cannot build the complete application, and
Okay.
similar for Hibernate also. But in the case of Spring framework, right, it is a complete and modular framework. So it is
Mhm.
no need to depending on other technologies to build the complete application because it is having its own modules to build the complete applications. Okay, so what are the modules Spring Framework is having? So like we have a Spring Core module for creating objects,
Yeah.
Spring JDBC module for database connectivity.
Database.
Yes, Spring MVC for developing web applications, Spring AOP for developing cross-cutting concerns. You'll come to know slowly what is the AOP and all.
Mhm.
Spring Transaction Management
Yeah.
and Spring Security, etc. It is having its own modules to build the complete application.
Mhm.
Okay, it is no need to depending on other technologies to build the complete application. Got my
Okay.
point, right?
Yes.
Okay. So coming to the second point, the next point here is types of frameworks available in the market. Okay, there are two types of frameworks available in the market. Listen carefully. Types of frameworks. Types of frameworks. So, what are the two types of frameworks available in the market? The first one is non-invasive frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or first we'll go with the invasive frameworks. Second category is non-invasive frameworks.
Yeah.
Non-invasive frameworks. So, what is the difference between these two frameworks actually? So, coming to the first one, right?
Yep.
Invasive frameworks. Listen. So, this invasive frameworks will force the programmer or developer to implement or extend the classes and interfaces from that framework. That means this invasive frameworks will force the developer to
Oh,
include classes and interfaces from that framework. Okay,
okay.
so these frameworks will force the developer. Okay, will force the developer to include include classes and interfaces from that framework.
Yeah.
So simply we can say that framework will force the developer to
Okay.
use the predefined classes and all. The best example for this invasive framework is Struts framework.
Okay.
Struts framework. Okay. So this is the invasive framework. Coming to the non-invasive frameworks, right? So non-invasive frameworks won't force the developer to include the classes and interfaces from that framework. Okay, it won't force the programmer. So here won't force the programmer to include classes and interfaces from that framework. The best example for non-invasive frameworks is Spring framework. Spring
Mm-hmm.
framework, obviously. This is the best
Yes.
example for non-invasive framework. Now, Spring is which type of framework now? Non-invasive
Non.
framework because it won't force the programmer to include the classes or interfaces from that framework. Okay, so this is the fourth point.
Mm-hmm.
Spring is non-invasive framework.
Okay.
Okay, now
Yeah.
so the next point here is I told already. So it is a lightweight framework. So because it uses the Pojo model. It uses the
Yes.
Pojo model. So
Yes.
Pojo model means it internally uses the Pojo, plain old Java object. Pojo stands for plain old Java objects. I
Okay.
will take one simple example so that you can clearly understand. So no need to extend any class, no need to implement any interface. Simply just we have to use the classes with the properties and getters and setters. That's it. For example, class employee I'm taking. So
Okay.
this class is not extending any class or implementing any interface. And for example, it is having int employee ID and double salary salary. Okay, for this getters and setters, get methods and set methods. Okay, so now if any class contains properties and for this properties if it is having getters and setters, then we can say that is a Pojo class. So most of the time we'll use the Pojo classes. That's the reason we can say it is a lightweight framework. This class, no need to extend any class, no need to implement any other interfaces.
Yes.
Okay, so that is the
Yeah.
reason the Spring framework is a lightweight. because it uses the Pojo model. Next one. So the Spring framework can be used for developing desktop applications as well. So generally somewhere we read or somewhere we heard that okay, Spring framework can be used for developing enterprise applications. Yes, we can develop enterprise applications as well as the desktop or standalone applications as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so not only enterprise applications. Okay, so we can develop standalone web applications, web apps, etc. Okay, so these
Yeah.
are for the six important points you have to remember. So up to this you clear, right? Manish, any questions?
No, I don't have.
Okay. So coming to the next one, right? So Spring is much popular in the market, right?
Mm.
So what are the reasons? Okay. So Spring is having much demand in the market. So because of what reasons? Okay. So
Yeah.
mainly there are three reasons. Spring is much popular framework
Yeah.
in the market. In the market. So what are the reasons for that? So there are three reasons basically. The first one is simplicity.
Okay.
Simplicity. Just now we spoke about the Pojo model. So why Spring is simple? So because Spring framework is simple because if it uses the Pojo model, and
Yeah.
it is a non-invasive framework. Because of these two reasons, so Spring is simple to use.
Okay.
Second one, testability. Testability. Testing purpose. See now, for example, we have a EJB application. So to test EJB application, we must require what? We must require server. Then only we can test it. Okay,
Okay.
forget about the JUnit test cases. Okay, and even struts also. So to test the struts application, what we required? We require the server.
Okay.
So coming to the Spring Framework applications, no need to use the server. So because Spring provides internal containers, we can make use of those containers and we can run the applications. That is the beauty of Spring Framework actually. So no need of deploying application into the other server for testing the application I'm talking about. Okay,
Okay.
so no need of server for testing. Okay, so this is about the second reason why Spring is much popular in the market. So coming to the third one is loose coupling. Okay, loose coupling. So one thing you have to remember, this is the core concept of Spring Framework. Core concept of Spring Framework. So we'll talk about this loose coupling later, but remember this point, core concept of Spring Framework. So the objects should be loosely coupled. The objects should not be depending on another object, and that object is going to depending on another object. That should not happen in the Spring Framework. So the objects should be loosely coupled.
Okay.
So the, with example, I'll explain in the chapter 1. Okay, in the Spring Core module. Okay,
Mhm. Yeah.
so this is about the Spring Framework introduction and why the Spring is much popular in the market. And you may have one question. So along with the Spring Framework, other any frameworks are available in market, similar frameworks similar to the Spring framework. Yes, we have in the market. So there is a framework called JBoss Seam project, Seam framework. It is similar to the Spring only. So, but this Seam framework are developed by JBoss community.
Okay.
Second one is there is a Google. So GUICE. Okay, there is a one more framework Google. And third one here is Pico container. Okay, Pico container. So these are also similar to the Spring framework, but
Mhm.
that not much popular actually. Okay, so
Yeah.
compared to the Spring framework, these are not much popular. Okay, but there are other frameworks similar to the Spring framework available in the market. Got my point, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is about the Spring introduction. So the next one here is we'll go with the Spring framework runtime. Okay, so that means how many modules present in the Spring framework. I will give the diagram in this session. Okay,
Yeah.
so later I will explain about this diagram. Okay, so this entire thing is called a Spring framework runtime. Spring framework runtime. Spring framework runtime. Spring framework runtime. So the first module you have to remember is, okay, high level I will explain, but in detail, anyhow, for each and every topic we'll discuss, each and every module we'll discuss in detail.
Okay.
So there is a first module. The first module is test module. Okay, there is a test module. So what is the purpose of test module? For example, I want to test the code. For example, I'm writing some code. Okay, service layer and DO layers. I want to test the code. So this
Yeah.
test module can be used for testing the written code using JUnit framework and test ng framework. So if you
Okay.
want to test, the written code, so we can make use of JUnit and test ng. Okay, in test module. Second module is core, Spring core container. Spring core container.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is having submodules like core module, beans module, and context module and expression language module. Okay, let me write down here core module. Next one is the beans module, context module, and expression language module. So core module talks about the dependency injection.
Okay.
Okay, there are two types of dependency injection: Spring supports setter injection and a constructor injection.
Okay.
So already I mentioned the Spring provides two containers. One is the bean factory and second one is the application context container. So from beans module we can get beans container, bean factory container.
Yeah.
From context module we'll get the application context container. Okay,
Yes.
so expression language is similar to our JSP EL expressions. Okay, so we have some topics we'll discuss there. And along with this, It is having Spring AOP, aspect oriented programming language, and the implementation of AOP is aspects. Okay, and here AOP in detail you will come to know slowly. Don't worry about all modules. Just I'm giving some heads up. And here instrumentation. Instrumentation. So in the real time, we want to use the instrumentation module. So they developed it for some server purpose, server related activities. So AOP is aspect oriented programming, and aspects or implementation of AOP module only. So how we can use the AOP module, we'll discuss later. This is the one module you have to remember. What else? Data access and integration we have. Data access and integration. So there is a JDBC module and ORM module, object relational mapping. For example, if you want to integrate Spring with the ORM products like Hibernate, MyBatis, JPA, Toplink, we can go with the ORM module. So we have a JDBC module to connect to the database, and ORM means to connect to the Hibernate, etc. Next one is a OXM, object to XML mapping, and JMS, Java messaging service, and
Yeah.
transaction. So OXM talks about the marshalling and unmarshalling. So that that terminal also will come to know slowly. And JMS, Java messaging service. So for example, our Spring application wants to communicate to the JMS providers like TIPCO, ActiveMQ. We can make use of this module. And transaction management. Transaction management. So these are about the data access and integration. So what else we have? The last one, web module. So web, here we can talk about the MVC and remoting. So we have web module for building the web applications, and a servlets module, and portlet, and finally there is a struts module. So here we have if you want to develop web applications, Spring MVC, Spring Web we can use. Servlets, anyhow, you know the technology. In Web MVC, servlets will be used internally, and portlets, it is similar to the servlets only. Okay, in the real time we won't use it actually for building portals. Generally we'll use the portlets, but nowadays no one using this portlets concept. And starts, for example, I want to integrate Spring framework with the starts framework. Yes, we can go with the okay starts module of Spring framework. This is a high level, okay, so diagram for each and every module in detail. Anyhow, we'll learn everything. Okay, clear, Manish?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so this is about the a demo, and if you have any questions, you can tell, you can talk. Do you have any questions?
No, no, I don't have any questions.
Okay, so if you're interested, please contact Nagendra. He will guide you. Okay, and
Yes.
every day we will record this session and will place into the Google Drive. From there you can
Okay.
download. Okay, every day the recording session will be available, and assignments also will be provide. Okay,
Okay.
so for each module and framework, anyhow, we'll build the application. So for example, I'm Spring AOP I'm talking about, right? For example, if I'm taking Spring AOP, so related to that, anyhow, we'll build the examples, more examples. Okay, so this is about the Spring and Hibernate and web services. So that is also will. Uh, Generally, the Spring framework will take more time because it is having so many modules. Okay,
Hmm.
so Hibernate it will take 2 weeks max,
Yeah.
and web services. Okay, so here we'll teach both web services, SOAP as well as the rest of web services. Okay, so that we can get it. So apart from that, any questions?
So overall, how many weeks it will take for this one? Like
So Spring it will take 20 sessions,
20
20,
sessions. Okay.
20 to
Okay.
25 sessions it will take. Hibernate 15 to 20. Okay, approximately I'm talking about.
Okay.
And web services also 20 to 20 sessions. Okay, so 20 sessions it will take. Approximately I'm talking about.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, and including solution JSP it will take 10 more sessions if you want a solution JSP.
Yes. Yeah. And daily, how many hours? Like
Daily
it's a
1 hour.
fast track. 1 hour.
Daily 1 hour, and over the weekends, I will try to take extra classes. Okay, if possible, maximum I'll try to take extra classes if you're hurry with this course and all. If you are really required to complete the course early.
If we
Okay,
take like fast track, is it possible to take like 1.5 hour to 2 hour or no? Like
yeah, it's possible. Okay, we can take 1.5 hour daily. That is also fine. Okay, then Manish. Okay, so bye. Thanks. Okay, have a good day. Bye.
yeah, thanks, thanks. Yeah, I'll contact you.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks.
Thank you so much. Bye.